Hey guys, here we are at part 6 of the story. Another mob attacks Naruto, and the third Hokage takes a decision that will make Naruto a dangerous shinobi. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe button. Now, let's jump right in. It's been almost 2 weeks since Naruto began his mission to the Land of Snow. He was currently on the last leg of his trip after changing boats once in Lightning Country and again in the Land of Iron. As part of his mission, Naruto changed his appearance just in case he could be recognized. He dyed his blonde hair to jet black and left it a stringy mess that fell all over his head and down his face so that it would shadow his eyes. He wore a contact lens in his right eye that turned the cerulean blue into a deep forest green. He covered his whisker marks with white bandages that he wrapped around the lower half of his face. He was wearing a ragged gray traveling cloak that went all the way down to his ankles, and underneath the cloak he had on closed-toe boots with black cargo pants tucked into the tops. A machete was sheathed on the outside of his right thigh, and tucked in his waistband at the small of his back was a tomahawk. Tied around his belt hung a headband with a scratched-out music note. He wore a long-sleeved mesh shirt beneath a plain black combat vest that looked like it had seen better days. From his forearms to his knuckles, his hands were wrapped in white athletic tape like a boxer. He didn't carry a hip pouch or weapons holster. It was part of his image as a missing nin from the Sound Village, which was the story he made sure to circulate around about himself. He was going to try and weasel a position within Dodo's forces. The Land of Snow has a small military presence when compared to those found on the mainland, so they were always looking for soldiers to swell their ranks. He figured he would start a few fights, show off his skills, and hopefully get noticed and be in a position to help out Kakashi and Team 7 when they arrived. Naruto was currently traveling on one of the most decrepit ships he has ever seen. As part of his image as a missing nin, he had to travel by the basic of means, and the ship was at the very bottom. It was a slow-leaking death trap held together by a combination of gum and prayers. He shook his head at the things he had to endure as a shinobi. He was leaning on the rail overlooking the choppy water and the glaciers in the distance with a far-off look in his eyes. He was thinking back to the short time he spent in Wave before boarding the boat to get to Snow Country. The sun was just breaking through the clouds as Naruto leapt from tree to tree on his way to Wave Country. He had left Konoha well before sunrise, but not before picking up a few pieces of equipment he would need for his mission. He set himself to a fast pace and used the same route he traveled when on his first time to Wave. As it started getting light out, he decided to take to the trees instead of using the main roads. It was 3 hours after Naruto left Konoha that he saw a break in the trees ahead and knew that his destination was seconds away, so with a final burst he made a mighty leap and landed in a crouched position in front of the bridge leading into the village. Naruto straightened up and was thankful no one was around to see him emerge from the woods. He wouldn't want it to be mistaken for an enemy, not after what these people went through with Gato. As Naruto walked towards the bridge, he noticed a gleam in the corner of his eye. When he turned to fully look at it, he saw it was a silver plaque attached to the column on the right side of the bridge. As he read the plaque, he couldn't help but smile. This is the Bridge of Both Arms. With the connection of this bridge to the mainland, the hope of an entire island has been restored. It was named after a simple fisherman who died trying to protect his home and family. In the words of Keza the fisherman, if you love something you have to protect it with both arms. Naruto was very surprised by what he saw on the other side of the bridge. The last time he was here, the village looked like it was deserted, boarded up shops, burned out buildings, empty stalls, barely a soul in sight, and those he did see looked so empty. Now though, it looked like the complete opposite. People were smiling and laughing, although that laughter dimmed somewhat when they saw Naruto, decked out in his ninja gear, go past them. The food stalls were being filled, and it looked like they had rebuilt some of the destroyed shops. Out of habit and because he really didn't know where else to go, Naruto went directly to Tezuna's home. This was one place that didn't look like it changed too much. Hope it's not too early, Naruto thought to himself as he knocked on the door. Thump, thump, thump. Just a moment, a female voice said that Naruto knew wasn't Tsunami. Naruto raised his eyebrows. Maybe things have changed, he mumbled to himself. The door was open to reveal a beautiful girl in her late teens. She had long dark brown hair that fell around her shoulders and down her back. She was wearing a sky blue sundress with lilies on it and a white apron wrapped around her slender waist. As Naruto was checking her out in a semi-daze, he missed the look of recognition the girl had before she hid it. Ahem. Naruto shook his head, trying to reboot his mind when he heard her clear her throat. I'm sorry to disturb you so early in the morning, miss, but I was looking for Tazuna the bridge builder. Does he still live here? Yes, he does. Who may I say is asking for him? She asked softly, almost shyly. Arashi, he will know me as Arashi, he said. Very well, please come in. she said and held the door open for Naruto to enter. Naruto stepped in and stood to the side as she closed the door. "Please wait here a moment," she said. Naruto just nodded his head and followed the sway of her hips as she walked down the foyer and turned in the direction he knew the kitchen and dining room were. Once she was gone, Naruto took a deep breath and let it out slowly, trying to get his mind back on track and out of the gutter. He heard a chair scrape across a floor, and then he heard the pounding of feet coming closer. He wasn't in the least surprised to see Inari come skidding into view. "It is you. You came back, Arashi-ni-san," Inari said with a bright smile. "I said I would come back to see you whenever I could, didn't I?" Naruto said, smiling. Because his eyes were closed, he wasn't prepared when Inari slammed into him and tried to squeeze the air out of him with a hug. He was able to get his trapped arms out and return the hug. "Man, Inari, you sure have gotten a lot stronger, haven't you? That's what happens when you spend most of your free time building things with your hands," an old grouchy voice said. Naruto looked up at the voice and returned the smile that Tazuna was sporting. "Hey Tazuna, you're looking less old," he said. Tazuna's smile dropped as he became indignant. "Why you? Don't you have any respect for your elders?" "I meant it as a compliment, I assure you," Naruto said, but it was the truth. Tazuna was looking a lot better than the last time Naruto saw him. His gut was less paunchy, he was wearing, as usual, a sleeveless shirt, and Naruto could see his arms were retaining a healthy muscle tone, but more importantly it was the eyes. His eyes before had a look of desperation, now they were filled with life. Naruto disentangled himself from Inari and approached Tazuna with his hand outstretched and received a bone-crushing handshake from the bridge builder. "It really is good to see you again, Arashi-san," Tazuna said warmly. "You as well, by the way. I go by Naruto now, not Arashi." "You changed your name, Ni-san?" Inari asked. "It's more like I changed it back. Come in, we were just about to have breakfast," Tazuna said and led the way to the dining room. "What brings you back this way, or can't you tell us?" Tazuna asked as the three of them sat down at the table. "I can tell you I'm passing through on an assignment, but that's about it," Naruto said. "How long can you stay?" Inari asked. "Just for the day, I'm afraid. I leave tonight." "Hey, don't look so down, we can spend time together before I have to go," Naruto said as he saw Nara's face fall. "I have school, and then I'm supposed to help Grandpa at a new job site." "It's okay if you want to skip the job site today, Naruto's only in town for a short while," Tazuna said, "but you have to ask your mom about school." "It's fine with me, honey, you've been working so hard lately, you deserve a break," Tsunami said from the doorway leading into the dining. Naruto stood up as Tsunami entered the room and met her halfway to her seat and pulled her into a hug. "You're just as beautiful as ever, Tsunami-chan," Naruto whispered. "I see you haven't lost your touch," she said as she pulled back with a blush on her face. "Sit down, breakfast should be just about ready," she said and bustled off to the kitchen. "You heard her right? We can spend the day hanging, right?" Inari said excitedly. "Yes we can, I don't have any plans until tonight," Naruto said. "Inari, go change out of your school clothes and put on something old?" Tazuna said. "Okay Grandpa, tell Hakune-san not to eat my bacon this time, I'll be right back," Inari said, rushing out of the room. Naruto stilled when he heard that name. Now Haku could be a very common name all over the elemental nations as far as Naruto knew, but now that he thought about it, that girl who answered the door did look a little familiar. Naruto lowered his mask and channeled chakra into his nose and took a deep sniff. He had to concentrate to filter out the smells of the cooked food coming from the kitchen, but he was certain he caught the scent of medicinal herbs and clean water. He hastily pulled his mask back up as the door to the kitchen opened and Tsunami and apparently Haku entered. He stole a glance at Tazuna, who just nodded his head at his silent question. He waited until they sat the bowls of oatmeal, eggs and the plates of bacon and toast on the table before speaking. "I don't think we've been introduced yet. I'm Naruto." "We've been introduced, Naruto-kun, just not properly." "I'm very surprised to see you here, Haku. Is Zabuza close by?" Naruto asked. Haku gave Naruto a sad smile. "Zabuza-sama went back to the hidden mist. It wasn't long after we helped you out that he was tracked down by some former colleagues and was asked to fight for the rebels in the Civil War," he agreed without hesitation. "Why didn't you go with him? The rebels could have probably used your skills." "I offered, but he said it wasn't my fight since I was never really a ninja of the hidden mist. His final order before he left was to find my own path and walk it. I felt Wave Country was the place that had the most profound effect on my life, so I came here. I work part-time in the clinic here, and Tazuna-san and Tsunami-san have been kind enough to let me stay here," Haku said with a smile gracing her face. "It's the least we could do after what happened," Tsunami said, smiling at Haku. Inari came racing backing into the room just then. "Nei-san, did you eat my bacon again?" he asked, panting a little. Haku openly laughed at Inari. "Your bacon is safe, Inari-kun." As Inari slid into his chair, Naruto asked, "How did you come to be living here?" "That's not really important," Inari said quickly. Breakfast smells good this morning. Did you do something different?" "Mom, have you lost weight?" "Grandpa, you're going to be late for work if you don't eat soon." "Haku-ne-san, are you doing something different with your hair?" Inari talked so fast his sentences practically ran together. Tazuna, Tsunami and Haku were laughing at the flustered young man. There was obviously a funny story behind Haku ending up in the household. "Now I have to know the story," Naruto said. "It's boring, hardly worth mentioning." Inari insisted. "What happened was..." Tazuna began. "Come on, Gramps," Inari grumbled. "My wonderful grandson got an idea in his head to build himself a tree house out in the surrounding forest. But he's not allowed to use any dangerous tools without myself or Tsunami there to watch him. So his tool of choice was a glue gun." Tazuna looked at Inari and couldn't contain the full belly laugh at his grandson's red face. "When he hadn't showed up for lunch, we got a little worried and were about to go look for him, when he walks in the door with a full body blush and nothing but his boxers, followed by Haku. Turns out he had somehow glued himself to a tree and he didn't think to take his clothes off until Haku came along and found him." Tazuna finished the story with a new round of laughter from everyone at the table except for Inari, who was sullenly eating his breakfast. After a few minutes the laughter died down and Naruto wiped the tears from his eyes. "Did you ever finish the tree house?" "No, I haven't been back out there since it happened," the young builder said. "How about we do that today? I'll help you finish your tree house before I leave tonight," he offered. Inari looked at him with excitement shining in his eyes. "How are you going to help me build a tree house in one day? I'll show you later if you want my help." "Of course I do. This is going to be awesome." Inari stood up from his chair. "I'm going to go pull out the stuff we need from the shed." "Hurry up, Nisan," Inari said, running out of the room and then the house. "I better get going too," Tazuna said, standing up. "This village isn't going to rebuild itself. Will you be joining us for dinner, Naruto? As long as I'm not imposing on you too much. After what you did for us, you're welcome in our home anytime. I'll see you all tonight." "I'll walk with you, Tazuna-san. I have a shift at the clinic this morning." "It was nice seeing you again, Naruto. I hope we can speak more later." "I look forward to it, Haku," he said sincerely. "Tsunami-san, I'll be back to help you prepare lunch," Haku said, following Tazuna out of the dining room. "Have a good day, you two," Tsunami called out to the departing duo. "Tsunami-chan, how have you been lately?" "Wonderful," she said, almost gushing. "Ever since Gato disappeared from our lives, I feel like an evil curse has been lifted from Wave. He plagued us for so long, he destroyed so many lives. I thought we would never recover, but we did, and now it's like we've given ourselves permission to live again." "That's great news." "Amongst ninja, there's an unwritten rule that says, live each moment to its fullest. It's why we're considered adults when we receive our headbands," Naruto said, tapping his own that he wore around his head. "You guys, this entire village is so completely different than the last time I was here. I almost didn't recognize it." "That's not all. I've been seeing someone recently, and he owns a grocery store in town," she said, fairly beaming. "You lit up like an explosive note just now, Tsunami-chan," Naruto said, returning her smile. "It's more than just dating, isn't it?" "I'm pregnant," Tsunami said, covering her mouth to keep the happy squeals at bay. Naruto leapt over the table and scooped Tsunami up in a hug. "Congratulations. How far along are you?" 4 weeks, Haku is the only one who knows for now. We plan to tell Dad and Inari when we announce the engagement, Tsunami said with her smile firmly in place. "Tsunami-chan, that is great news. I hope I made the guest list," Naruto said jokingly. "You and all of Team 7, my father told me you guys could have cancelled the mission when you found out he lied to you, but you didn't." Tsunami placed her hands on Naruto's cheeks and looked him in the eyes. "For whatever reason you decided to come to our aid, and you changed so many lives as the result." Naruto didn't have a response, so he just nodded his head. "Well, Inari is probably wondering where I am, so I better get going." He gave her another hug. "Congratulations again." "Thank you. Lunch is at 1 o'clock, and keep an eye on Inari and the glue gun, please." Naruto was chuckling as he left the dining room and headed for the front door. As promised, Naruto helped Inari build the tree house in one day with the liberal use of shadow clones. He left that evening after a veritable feast, with a promise from him to visit more often to Inari and with a promise to start writing to Haku. He was pulled away from his memories by the smell of cheap steak, an unwashed body and cigarettes. He turned towards the smell and wasn't surprised to see a fellow passenger by the name of Satsu approaching him. Satsu was probably somewhere in his early to mid-30s, but to look at him your first guess would probably be around 50 years old. He had greasy brown hair, shifty yellow eyes set into a pale sunken face with dark circles beneath. He had a small constantly red nose from constant drinking and a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow. He stood at about 5 feet 5 inches and was very skinny, almost emaciated. He had boarded the boat in Lightning Country, and since then he had made himself known to most everyone on board as a person who knew how to acquire things for the right price. He had approached Naruto within an hour of coming aboard. He strolled up to Naruto like they were old friends with a wide smile, showing that whatever teeth that hadn't fallen out of his head were black as coal. Before he could utter a single word, Naruto sent him scrabbling away from him with a burst of killing intent, a cold glare from one blue eye and one green eye. He hadn't the courage to approach him again until now. "Excuse me, but you are Boku-san, correct?" he rasped. His voice sounded like he went through 3 packs a day. Naruto, or Boku as he named himself for the mission, just stared at him without answering. Satsu shifted from foot to foot as he got the silent treatment. He cleared his throat nervously. "Word around the ship is that you're a missing nin." Still keeping silent, Naruto shifted to fully face him. Satsu quickly threw up his hands in a pleading gesture. Wait, I didn't approach you to cause you trouble, but if you're going to Snow Country looking for work, I can help you." Naruto kept up the silent treatment for a while longer, just staring at the filthy little man in front of him. "How can one such as you help me?" he finally said, his voice so cold and emotionless. Satsu shivered at the sound of that voice. He could have sworn with that handful of words his death flashed before his eyes. "I'm a native of Snow Country. I can show you the best places to showcase your skills, get you noticed. I know people that will pay good money for a trained fighter." Suddenly, Satsu couldn't breathe. It took his brain a moment to register that he was being held in the air by his throat. He pissed himself when he looked into the angry eyes of the monster of a man he approached. "Do I look like I hire myself out for other people's entertainment or amusement? Trained fighter? I'm a trained warrior." Naruto snarled fully into his Boku persona. Naruto turned and held his arm out over the railing of the ship. "I ought to drop you in the freezing waters for wasting my time," he threatened. Satsu frantically shook his head, begging with his eyes to be spared the slow death of drowning or hypothermia. I'm Ori, please. I can find you proper work," Satsu rasped out as best he could. Naruto held him over the water a while longer, giving the impression his was thinking before he hauled the man back on deck and dropped him on his ass. Satsu greedily took in big gulps of life-sustaining air as he massaged his throat. "Tell me about this proper work," Naruto said after giving the man a moment to get himself together. "I know someone. We've had dealings in the past. He's the right hand of the daimyo. I can get word to him and set up a meeting," Satsu promised. "What's in it for you?" "Protection. You give me your word you'll protect me during our travels to the meeting place." "The last time I was here I didn't leave on good terms with a lot of people," Satsu said as he rose unsteadily to his feet. Naruto turned back to look out over the ocean again. "I'll agree on one condition: you always stay downwind of me." "Whatever you want, Boku-san, whatever you say," Satsu said as he rushed to get away from the terrifying missing nin and back to his bunk to change his pants. The ship eventually docked later that day in some small port town away from the swankier area of Snow Country. Naruto was informed by his traveling companion that this particular port was known for harboring a pirate crew as long as they were on time with their payments to the daimyo. After sending of a message with the last mail cart for the evening, according to Satsu, we were set to meet his contact at a tavern 3 days' travel from the port. Naruto didn't think he could stomach being in this smelly man's company for that long, but he would tough it out for the mission. He could have left him behind, but having never been in Snow Country before, he needed a guide. Naruto spent 3 days in complete silence as he listened to Satsu talk nervously about any and everything under the sun. He could have shut him up at any time, but the best way to gather information was to let the other person carry the conversation. He found out through Satsu's nervous chatter that the reason he really needed to walk in Naruto's shadow was because he stole quite a bit of money from the local pirate crew. Apparently there was a price on his head. The roadside tavern they were to meet in was dark and hazy, smoke-filled, dilapidated building. The meeting was set for 6 o'clock in the evening and they had been waiting since around noon, watching from a dark corner the comings and goings of various travelers. The place was getting packed as the day wore on. Satsu was nervously nursing a bottle of sake. "Is something on your mind, Satsu?" Naruto asked suddenly, the first time he had spoken since the ship ride. Satsu spilled a saucer of sake down his shirt at the sudden question. "No, not really, it's just this place is frequented by people who I'd hope not to run into." Naruto was spared a response when the door to the tavern was literally kicked down and about men started pouring into the tavern with drawn swords, cleavers and clubs. One man pushed himself to the head of the horde. He was about 6 feet with a muscular build but not overly so. He had short cropped snow-white hair, round black eyes and a bandana tied around his mouth bandit style. His weapon of choice was a heavy-looking spiked metal club which he seemed to hold with ease. "Nobody move," he said. Either the leader or spokesman for the group shouted. "We're looking for a man who calls himself Boku. Give him to us and you'll all be spared refuse and you'll all die." Naruto narrowed his eyes slightly. He knew there was no way in hell these people knew who he was. Either Satsu had more balls than brains and set this ambush up, or the person he contacted decided to cash in on a missing nin. In either situation he wasn't worried by the way these men held themselves. They were just thugs, not trained shinobi. He slowly stood out of his seat and the white-haired man. All attention shifted to him as he walked out of the shadows. "How can I help you upstanding citizens?" Naruto said calmly and sarcastically. "There's a reward on your head that I aim to collect." "Is there really? How much?" Naruto asked curiously. $100,000. "Is that all your life is worth, $100,000? I think you've been cheated," Naruto said before he turned to the bartender. "Is there a back door?" He got a very shaky nod as an answer. "I suggest you and everyone else here use it." That was the last thing he said before he whipped back around with his machete in full swing and separated the spokesman's head from the rest of his body. It took a second before bandits got over the shock at the quick death of their leader. "Kill the bastard." Ah. And the battle had begun. A mean-looking man wielding a switchblade was the first to reach him and was met with a kick to the sternum that dropped him like a stone. He didn't even moan in pain before he was unconscious. Naruto caught the arm of a man to his left who was swinging a cleaver in an overhead chopping motion. He sidestepped another man who jabbed a knife at Naruto's unprotected stomach. Bringing the cleaver-wielding arm down, he used it to cut off the hand of the guy he sidestepped. As the man screamed in pain from the loss of his hand, Naruto ran the sharp edge of his machete across his throat, silencing his screams and releasing a flood of red coursing down his body. Still holding the wrist of the man who wielded the cleaver, he drove his knee into his gut and as he was bent over, stabbed the machete through the back of his neck. Releasing the now limp wrist, Naruto pulled his tomahawk out of the small of his back and advanced on the remaining horde. Naruto's machete and tomahawk flashed through the bar in a flurry of swings, opening wounds and taking chunks of flesh with every swing. Naruto was proud to say he was in his element. He could perform most duties as a ninja. He could teach, spy, sabotage or gather information. But he was most at home in the thick of battle. Swinging his tomahawk into his enemy's face or bisecting another with his machete. He was a whirlwind of bloody carnage when it came to combat. It was over before it began. Every bandit lay dead or dying and Naruto was in the middle of covered in blood, but once again none of it his. He looked around the bar, double-checking, making sure he hadn't missed anything. He hadn't. The bar was empty except for him and the bodies. Naruto walked towards the door, bloody machete and tomahawk still in hand. He knew someone was out there, he could feel them. As he stepped up to the doorway, he was proven right, as standing in the shadows across the road were two figures. One was clearly a female by the outline of curves in the right places, and the other was clearly a man based on the sheer size and mass of the shadow. "It seems you passed our little interview," a sly female voice called out. "Hardly an interview. I doubt there was anyone above a street fighter in the bunch," Naruto said coldly. "Not true. There was actually a veteran jonin amongst them, white hair, black eyes. He should have had a spiked metal club," the same voice said. "He was the first to die," Naruto said simply. Then the figures moved from the tree line to the center of the road where the sunlight illuminated them. Naruto was right, it was a man and woman, both of them ninjas if the outfits were any indication. The first person he took notice of was the man. He was a large man with short crop of purple hair and dark eyes. He was wearing a full-body blue and white outfit and he had a bulky metal gauntlet on his left arm. The woman was also wearing a blue and white bodysuit, only more form-fitting, show off her curvaceous body. She had green eyes. She was the one who broke the stare off. "I'm Fubuki, the landmass next to me is Mizore, and if you're Boku you passed the first interview?" Naruto didn't say anything. He merely crouched down and began cleaning his weapons using the surrounding snow, never taking his eyes of the two snow ninjas. When he was finished, he stood and made a show of slowly sheathing his machete and stashing his tomahawk in his cloak. "What's the second interview?" Naruto finally asked. "Keeping up with us," Fubuki said as a set of mechanical wings sprang out of her back and she took to the sky. Mizore pulled out a snowboard from behind him, threw it on the ground and hopped aboard. "We won't be stopping until we reach the daimyo's palace. Hope you're not tired after that little sparring session." The big man rumbled before he blasted off on his board. Naruto dashed off after him and quickly caught up and kept a steady pace with the large snowboarder. They traveled in silence throughout the long journey to the palace. Mizore would every once in a while pour more chakra into his board and get ahead of Naruto, but never for long. Fubuki every now and again would swoop down, take a look at Naruto, then return to the sky, but none of them ever saying a word. 4 hours later, Naruto saw that he was coming into the home stretch as he ran up a winding cliff towards a huge gothic mansion. It was a long 4-hour run to the daimyo's palace, with the pace increasing every half hour. When they stopped, Naruto wasn't even breathing hard and made a point of pretending to yawn when the big man Mizore looked his way. Naruto turned away from the purple hair snow ninja when Fubuki came in for a landing. He saw as she landed that her wings folded into some kind of device on her back. "Let's go, Dodo-sama is expecting you," she said, walking through a large wrought iron gate down a massive walk. Naruto walked behind Fubuki with Mizore bringing up the rear. He raised his eyebrow as he noticed she seemed to put a lot more sway into her hips than warranted. "Okay, I can work with that," Naruto thought. Since she was putting on a free show, Naruto didn't bother to turn away even when she glanced over her shoulder. "Like what you see, Boku-san?" she said over her shoulder. "I wonder, is your pink hair natural?" he asked. "If you're lucky, you can find out for yourself." "Both of you shut up, we're here," Mizore growled out behind Naruto. And here was a set of massive double doors 20 feet high and looked like they were made of steel. Fubuki lifted her foot and banged on the door 3 times. Her foot barely touched the ground before there was a loud grinding noise and the doors began to swing inwards. Fubuki began walking through the doors before they were fully open and Naruto followed after her. When he crossed the threshold, he immediately scanned his surroundings. He was in a large foyer that spanned about 40 feet wide and went up to the ceiling. There were lanterns lining the walls every 20 feet which hid the ninjas in the shadows very well. Straight ahead of Naruto was a marble staircase that led to the upper levels, but that's not where we went. The pink-haired snow ninja led him to the right of the staircase further down the hall to a metal door. Fubuki paused before she opened it. A word of advice: be respectful towards Dodo-sama, he doesn't suffer fools. I'll keep that in mind. Be sure you do, I'd hate for you to die before you found out my real hair color, she said with a sultry wink, before she opened the door. Naruto was now in what could only be described as a throne room. It was massive, big enough to fit the Hokage tower inside. His attention was drawn to the only other occupants in the room. Both were men. One was seated on a high stone platform in an ornate wingback chair. He had his cheek resting on his right fist as he lounged nonchalantly in the seat. He could tell by the wide shoulders that he was muscular, but not how tall he was. He was older, maybe about mid-40s, with long brown hair. His eyes were too small for Naruto to tell what color they were. He had a large nose, a flat mouth and a square jaw. It could only be Dodo Kazana, the ruler of the land of snow. Behind him and slightly to the right was a man probably in his mid-20s. He had light silver blue hair and a high ponytail and sea-green eyes. He had a slender build and he was armor, a blue and white uniform similar to the others. Naruto followed Fubuki until they reached the bottom of the stone platform. "Wait here and keep silent," she ordered before leaping to the platform and kneeling in front of her master. "Aren't you going to introduce us to your friend, Fubuki?" Dodo asked dryly. "Dodo-sama, I bring to you Boku, former ninja of the Hidden Sound Village," she said from her kneeling position. Naruto stood silently as the ruler of Snow Country scrutinized him with his beady eyes. "Even so far away from the mainland, we've heard news of Sound's utter defeat at the hands of Konoha," Dodo finally said, smirking. "Is that why you ran all the way out here, to get away from the shame of your defeat?" "Yes," Naruto said simply. "No one would think to look for me in such an insignificant little country," and even though Dodo couldn't see it behind his bandaged covered mouth, Naruto smirked anyway. His reply wiped the smirk off of Dodo's face, and earned him a glare from the blue-haired man behind him. He felt Mizore move closer to his back but didn't acknowledge him. He kept his attention on Dodo, who regarded him silently, before a mocking smile formed on his face. "Ha ha ha ha, do you consider yourself brave or foolish to mock a lion in his den?" He didn't bother to wait for a reply. "How would you rate his skills, Fubuki?" "Hi Jonin," she said immediately. "I sent Eiji and his pirate crew as a test. He killed them all without any jutsu or injury to himself. Then he ran here for 4 hours non-stop and wasn't even winded." "Eiji? Wasn't he the man who taught you Nader?" Dodo asked without looking behind him. "Yes he was, Dodo-sama," Nader said through clenched teeth. "I'm sorry for your loss. If you'd like, I can take you to the tavern and help you match his head with his body," Naruto said coldly. Nader snarled and was about to leap down and attack before the laughter of his lord kept him in his place. Ha 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 ha. There it is again, Fubuki, get him a uniform and show him to the barracks. Yes, Dodo-sama, she rising from her kneeling position. She hopped down next to Naruto and led him back the way he came. Once they were out of the throne room with the doors closed behind them, Fubuki pushed Naruto against the door and leaned into his face. Naruto grabbed the handle of his machete just in case. Oh, you are a dangerous one, aren't you, Boku-san? She said with a teasing smile on her face. Not only do you mock Dodo-sama but Nader as well. You better watch your back around him. Eiji was like an older brother to him. He will be coming for you eventually. Thank you for the warning. He suddenly reversed their positions but also turned her around so that he was pressed against her back. He ground his hardening cock against her ass, and leaned forward to whisper in her ear, now here is your warning, watch your back. Sooner or later you'll come for me. He felt her shiver before she pushed her ass into his cock. It met him grind for grind. She wiggled her ass around until Naruto gave her enough room to turn around and face him. She reached for his bandages but didn't get far before he caught her hands in his and held them above her head. She struggled briefly trying to free her hands, but her struggles ceased when Naruto held both her hands above her head with his left hand and grabbed her crotch with his right. Her startled gasp was muffled as she buried her face in his shoulder. Naruto worked his palm in small circles around her covered clit, slowly at first but then sped up as her thighs tightened around his hand. Wait. Not here, we can't be caught here, she whispered frantically. Is your room far? She didn't answer, just grabbed his hand and they disappeared in a swirl of snow. They reappeared in what he assumed was her bedroom. It was pretty Spartan. No windows and a dresser with a single lamp on top was all he could see before he was pushed on the bed and his lap was straddled by the horny snow kunoichi. She parted the bandages around his mouth and slammed her lips on top of his. Naruto returned the kiss just as fiercely before grabbing her around her thighs and lifting her up. Her legs instantly went around his hips as they continued to kiss. He purposely slammed her back against her bedroom wall hoping to set off her wings, which he did. Shit. I forgot about the armor. Get comfortable, I'll be right back, she said as Naruto set her on her feet and she walked to a door on the far side of the room which turned out to be a bathroom. After she went into the bathroom and closed the door, Naruto began undressing. He took off the bloodied cloak, the stained hand wraps and the beaten flak jacket. The mesh shirt followed. He pulled the tomahawk from his back and sat it on the dresser. The sheathed machete soon rested next to it. He kicked off his boots as he unbuckled and slid his pants off. Sitting on the bed in nothing but plain black boxers, he reached down and picked up one of his discarded boots and rotated the heel, revealing a hidden compartment within. Upturning the heel, a small clear plastic baggie fell into his hand. Inside the bag were 3 threading needles. What was so special about these needles was that they were coated in a very strong muscle relaxer. It was a combination hypno drug and truth serum. It was favored among interrogators in case you didn't want to leave any visible evidence that someone had been questioned. Very good for weak-minded interrogation prisoners, which Fubuki was unknowingly about to become. He took out one of the needles and placed it carefully between the middle and ring finger of his right hand before stowing the rest back in his boot. He sat with his back against the headboard and waited for his target to come back in. It wasn't long before the door opened and Fubuki stood frame in the light of the bathroom sans armor. Her pink hair fell just below chin level and she was wearing black bicycle shorts and a matching sports bra. She walked, no, more like swayed to the foot of the bed, then crawled towards Naruto on her hands and knees until she once again straddled his lap right over his crotch, moaning as she ground her pussy against the hard ridges of his cock. I'm glad you didn't take the bandages off. I like a man of mystery and the blood helps, she said. Naruto slapped her sharply on the ass with the hand he held the needle in, injecting her with the muscle relaxer. Bad girls like you need to be treated accordingly. Oh. Yes, that's just how I like it punish me. She trailed off as her eyes went glassy and took on a far-off look. Naruto grabbed her chin and forced her to look him in the eyes. What's your name? Naruto asked in a calm, soothing voice, like he was talking to a small child. Fubuki, she said in a faraway voice. What is your occupation? Elite Jonin of the Land of Snow. Is Dodo aware Princess Koyuki is on her way to Snow Country? Naruto asked. Yes, Dodo-sama's spies have been watching her since Nader confirmed that the actress Yuki Fujikaze is actually Koyuki Kazana. When does he expect her to arrive? In 3 weeks, she was recently seen boarding a boat leaving the mainland. One of his spies managed to steal the shoot schedule. He is aware of where she will be at all times. Does he know of any security detail? Yes, she was seen boarding the boat with Kakashi Hitake and 3 younger leaf shinobi, 2 boys and a girl. Do you have a description of the younger leaf shinobi? only that both boys had black hair and the girl had pink hair. Naruto decided not to pursue that line of questioning. It didn't really matter who Kakashi got to feeling on his team. What does Dodo want with Koyuki? He believes she holds the key to the Kazahana clan treasure. What key? The Hex Crystal. How does Dodo plan to capture Koyuki? We haven't been given a plan yet. Great, which means I have to improvise, Naruto said to himself. Tell me about the chakra armor. I only know the basics. It boosts the user's own chakra and jutsu. It also negates an enemy's genjutsu and ninjutsu. Do you know where the chakra armor is being made or who designs them? Only Dodo-sama knows that. You have been most helpful. When you awake in the morning you will not remember being questioned. You will have vivid memories of a night of incredible sex. You will even walk with a limp and think of me as the man who ruined you for all other men. Naruto said. I do have an image to maintain, he thought. Now sleep, he said in the same calm and soothing voice. Her eyes closed as she slumped forward. Naruto caught her by the shoulders and laid her on the mattress beside him. Naruto then lay down next to her and got comfortable. He was basically stuck there until the morning. One man you've already beaten and 3 fresh out of the academy genins against my elite and you fail? Dodo said calmly. He was in his throne room addressing a kneeling Nader, Mizore, and Fubuki. They had just gotten back from their failed attempt to ambush the Konoha ninjas and bring his niece and the Hex Crystal to him as he had ordered. Would you care to explain how exactly that was possible? My apologies, Dodo-sama, we underestimated them. Dodo's glare was only half wasted, because even though Nader's eyes were on the ground he still felt it on the back of his neck. Nader, do I need to impress upon you the seriousness of the situation? No, my lord, we will not fail you again. Is the train prepped and ready? Yes, my lord, it can leave at a moment's notice, Fubuki said. Since it seems you 3 can't get the job done on your own anymore, be sure to invite Boku-san. Dodo ordered. Nader stiffened at the mention of the recently hired missing nin. With all the preparation for that day's mission he never had a chance to exact his revenge for the killing of his former sensei. Is there a problem, Nader? If you don't feel you can work with Boku-san, perhaps you should stay here and guard the mansion. Nader quietly seethed. After all I've done, he treats me like this. I'll be fine, Dodo-sama. Good. We leave in the morning, you are dismissed, Dodo said calmly. While Dodo was busy reaming out his elite squad, Naruto was finally making contact with Team 7. He knew from another round of interrogation of Fubuki that they planned an ambush at one of the filming sites. So he followed them from a distance and waited until the film crew arrived, and he was surprised to see that Kakashi had the mini taijutsu master Lee as a part of his team. During the ensuing battle, he snuck aboard the ship and stowed himself in the crow's nest to wait out the fight and report to Kakashi as soon as he could. That opportunity came when 2 hours later, when all the excitement died down and the ship had docked. He waited until the deck had cleared of the film crew before he shimmied down the mast and didn't waste time before skulking to the lower cabins. It was dark below decks, only a single lantern lighting the way. He followed the sound of voices coming from further along. He crept forward cautiously with his back pressed close to the wall but not on it. He was almost to the opening when he heard the unmistakable last drawl of Kakashi's voice. Yuki Fujikaze is an alias, her real name is Koyuki Kazahana, rightful heir to the throne of the Land of Snow. Naruto flared his chakra 3 times in rapid succession, paused for a count of 5, then flared it 3 more times. Come in, I was hoping to hear from you soon, Kakashi said. When Naruto appeared in the doorway, everyone who was seated jumped to their feet. The 3 civilians in the room scrabbled over themselves to get as far back as was possible, and the ninjas minus Kakashi all grabbed for their weapons. Hold it, he's on our side. Kakashi's statement had the 3 genins looking back and forth between the uniformed snow ninja and their jonin leader. Kakashi-sensei, how is a snow ninja on our side? Sakura asked in alarm. I'm truly hurt that you don't recognize me, Sakura-chan. After all we've been through together, the long sweaty nights we've shared, Naruto said teasingly. What the hell are you talking about? She screeched, with her face turning redder by the second. I will not have you besmirching the beautiful Sakura's name in such a way. I challenge you to a duel of honor, Lee said before he shifted into his strong fist stance. Alright, everyone calm down. Normally I wouldn't mind the teasing, but now isn't the time, Naruto, Kakashi said. The eyes of Team 7 widened at the name. Naruto? My eternal rival? HN? Sorry about the levity, just trying to break the tension, Kakashi, the disguised Chunin said as he walked further into the room. Kai. It's really me, Sakura. This is hair dye and a contact lens, Naruto said, gesturing towards his hair and green eye. What do you have to report? Kakashi asked. Wait a minute, What is he even doing here? We don't need his help, Sasuke said, sneering at Naruto. Kakashi sighed exasperation. Sasuke, Naruto was a part of this mission before you were? He was sent in ahead of us to gather information, and if you close your mouth he can now share that information with the rest of us. Sasuke clamped his lips together in a firm line as he was reprimanded in public. Naruto took a seat at the table they were all gathered at. He glanced at the three civilians as they made their way back to the table when the possible violence seemed to pass. Shouldn't we clear the room first? He asked, looking at the three of them. This is Sandayu Usama, Kakashi pointed out, a man who looked to be in his late 40s with long brown hair pulled into a ponytail, a neatly trimmed beard and small round glasses perched on his nose. He was an advisor under the former leader of Snow Country, Sasetsu Kazana. What you have to say can be said in front of him. However, but you two will have to excuse us. Kakashi, he said politely to the other two gentlemen who turned out to be the director and his assistant. Ah, do we really have to? The assistant whined. Come on, you fool, with all that's happening we have major rewrites to supervise. The director said, grabbing the other man by the arm and hauling him out of the room. Koyuki Haim, you might as well come in, this concerns you as well, Kakashi said, and sure enough, not a second after the director and assistant cleared the doorway, Koyuki was standing in there leaning on the door jamb. Now Naruto, what do you have to report? After spending 3 weeks here, I can tell you he's ruthless and cunning. As you can ascertain from the ambush, Dodo knew you were coming. With that failure he most likely has a backup plan already underway. Naruto glanced around to make sure he had their attention. His goal is the Kazahana clan treasure, and he believes the hex crystal that was in the possession of Koyuki is the key, although I doubt he's going to stop there. He's most likely going to kill you once he gets what he wants, Naruto said, looking over his shoulder at the princess. I don't care, he can have the crystal and my life, I don't care about either of them, she said coldly. Naruto was surprised to hear her say that. What the hell has gotten into her? She wasn't this fatalistic when I knew her. Koyuki Haim, you must not say things like that, we were frantic worrying about you. We never gave up praying you were alive, Sandayu insisted. After that night 10 years ago, I stopped living. I walk, I talk, but I don't feel. I don't care whether I live or die, she said without any emotion in her voice. Koyuki Haim, the people need you. You have to take your rightful place as leader of the land of snow, Sandayu said, coming around the table and dropping to his knees in front of her. We would gladly take up arms and fight for you if only you would stake your claim. Naruto watched as Koyuki stared at the man with absolutely no emotion on her face. The woman he had gotten to know during his stretch as a security was nowhere to be found on her face. The Koyuki that he knew was ill-tempered, sure, but she had a fire behind her eyes that drew Naruto to her. He couldn't believe that this woman devoid of any emotion and the woman with a hidden volcano beneath the surface were one and the same. I don't think so, she said coldly, shocking everyone in the room. But what about the people? They need you. Sandayu pleaded, still on her knees. I could care less about the people, was the last she said before walking away. There was complete silence as she walked away. No one spoke until the sound of Dora was heard in the distance. What a bitch, Naruto said into the silence. Please do not judge her harshly, she has her reasons for. I don't care. Every time I leave the village on a mission I have to play psychiatrist to someone or compare childhood traumas to see who has had it worse. Naruto stood and started pacing behind his chair. You can send the princess to therapy after this is all over, but for now we have to come up with a plan to take out Dodo. Naruto's right, let's get back on track, Kakashi said. Does Dodo have any weaknesses we can exploit? I've only met him once briefly, that was when I first got here. I haven't seen him since. Naruto reached under his cloak and slid a folded piece of paper towards Kakashi at the other end of the table. That's a map of as much of the mansion as I could cover so far. There are a lot of restricted areas I couldn't get into, but there are a few good entry points. Maybe you can make something out of that. Kakashi picked up the map and studied it briefly before passing it around the table. I'll let you know if I come up with anything. Any idea what his next move will be? Not a clue. Whatever he's going to do will be. I just realized we know exactly where he's going to strike next. We do? How do we know that? Lee asked. He has a copy of their filming schedule. That's how he knew where to ambush you today. We could set a trap for him at the next film site and be done with it. Naruto suggested. Solid plan, except we don't know how he's going to attack. Sasuke sneered. That's a good point. Well, I can do what I did today and follow them and strike when an opportunity presents itself. Naruto said. That leaves a lot room for error. We better take precautions for now. Kakashi picked up the map when it made its way back to him and put it in his pocket. You head back and be our ace in the hole, we may need a trump card and soon. I have been gone long enough, I left a clone behind but you know how fragile they can be. He looked between the three Genin still seated at the table. If we come across each other on the battlefield, don't hold back, come at me with the intent to kill, we can't afford any slip-ups and expose me as a spy. He got 2 nods of understanding from Lee and Sakura and an HN from Sasuke. After that Naruto left the little dining cabin and made the trip back to Dodo's mansion. The next day Naruto found himself as part of Dodo's traveling entourage. He was one of only a few who were standing within Dodo's personal luxury compartment. They were chugging along to the next film sire where Dodo was planning to overwhelm Team 7 and take Koyuki by force. Naruto finally felt the train stop its constant motion and with a hand motion from Dodo was ordered to follow him to the portion of the train that connected the rail cars. It was from the middle of the rail cars that he addressed his niece. "It's been 10 years, dear niece, don't you have a hug for your favorite uncle?" he asked cruelly. Koyuki stared in open-mouthed shock at the reason for 10 years of nightmares. Whatever else he was going to say was cut off by tree trunks rolling down the nearby hilltop and colliding with the train. We all looked in the direction they came from and on the hill was about 50 men all dressed in samurai armor and carrying weapons, and standing front and center leading these men was Sandayu-sama. "It's been 10 years Dodo, but finally I, Sandayu-sama and 50 of men will have our revenge for the death of our beloved ruler Sasetsu Kazana," he said pulling a sword from a sheath at his side. "Men, take a good look, it is our Princess Koyuki and rightful ruler of these lands, with her here to witness it, we'll be victorious." "Nader, I thought you got rid of all these peasant rebels," Dodo said calmly while looking at massive men. "My apologies Dodo-sama, allow me to correct my mistake," Nader asked with a bowed head. "These insects will only understand an overwhelming show of force before they are squashed." With a signal from Dodo, several train compartments on the train opened up to reveal some kind of weapon-mounted contraption manned by several snow ninjas. "Dodo-sama, forgive me for speaking out of turn, but if you would allow me, I believe I can make an even stronger statement on my own," Naruto said, coming up with a plan on the fly. "Allow me to succeed where Nader failed." Dodo turned to look at the foreign shinobi silently. "Very well," he said after a few seconds. "Show me that I haven't made a mistake in granting you a place in amongst my forces." Naruto bowed before jumping from the train. "Now is our time, men. Attack," Sandayu said and led his men in a full-on charge. Naruto casually walked towards the charging men at the same time as he grabbed his machete still sheathed on his thigh. He took one calming breath and as the blade cleared its sheath he disappeared in a blurred, faster than the people charging or watching could see. You couldn't even mark his progress as he didn't even leave footprints in the snow. The charging samurais seemed to all stop in their tracks with his disappearance. They all stood there for what seemed like eternity but was actually less than 10 seconds. Naruto reappeared in the same place he started in the processing of sheathing his blade. As the blade was fully seated within the sheath, the 50 men all seemingly collapsed in unison as blood misted from their bodies and settled on the white snow surrounding them. "Ha ha 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 ha." Dodo's cruel laughter echoed around the mountain. Koyuki and Lee's gasp of horror could be heard by all. Naruto turned in their direction and began to slowly approach them. "Princess, I think it's time for a family reunion, so come quietly or not." His walk was interrupted by a kunai with an exploding tag landing in his path. He jumped back to avoid its detonation range. He was forced to retreat back to the train as more kunai were thrown at him and the train. He made it back to the train just as an avalanche was started and partially buried the train. He looked back as the train pulled away to see the faces of Koyuki and Team 7 looking at him with utter shock on their faces. He shrugged as he retreated back to Dodo's luxury cabin. Back at the massacre on the mountain, Lee was walking towards the newly arrived members of Team 7 in a daze. Did you see what he did? He killed them all. He wasn't supposed to kill them." Kakashi was watching as the film crew was gathering the bodies of the fallen and checking for survivors. "Calm down, Lee, it's fine," Kakashi said. Lee turned sharply towards Kakashi, an angry scowl on his face. "Calm down, it's fine, have you lost your mind? These people were fighting to get their country and we are here to help them and Naruto just killed them. How can be so calm at a time like this?" "Because I trust Naruto to do the right thing. He wouldn't kill innocents in cold blood. It's not in his nature." Kakashi turned away from the angry Genin as Sakura and Sasuke approached at a jog. Sakura was out of breath but had a very relieved look on her face. "Kakashi-sensei, they're alive. All of them, they're all alive, he didn't kill a single one." Kakashi just nodded. He looked around him and saw the fallen men gingerly sitting up with help of the film crew. He turned to walk towards Sandayu. Koyuki, who was standing over him, jumped back in surprise. As he sat in an upright position, his armor fell from his shoulder, revealing a long cut from his left shoulder to his right hip. Kakashi approached Sandayu and placed a hand on his shoulder, gently urged him to lie down. How is it possible? I thought you were all killed, Lee said, from his position over Kakashi's shoulder. I don't know, I thought I was dead as well. The only thing I remember is seeing Naruto-san disappear in darkness. I thought it was the end, until I woke up with the princess standing over me. Sandayu explained. Kakashi, who had been silently examining the wound on his chest, finally spoke. It was the shock that caused you to black out. This cut is shallow, it'll leave a scar, but it's not life-threatening. Do you see why I didn't want to come back here? That man wasn't even your real enemy and he decimated you all. Next time Dodo will kill you and there is no way around it, Koyuki said, turning her back on them. I have never met anyone so unyouthful in all my days. These men put their lives on the line for you, for their country, and you don't even care. These people deserve better than you, Lee said, glaring at Koyuki. I never thought I would say this, but he's right, Sandayu said. Koyuki spun around to stare at her manager in shock. Sandayu shakily stood on his feet. With the help of Sakura, if Sasetsu-sama were alive today, he would be so ashamed of who you have become. I foolishly thought that once you saw that we were willing to fight for you, that it would stir something in you, but I was wrong. Sandayu bent down to retrieve his fallen sword. He stood and looked Koyuki in the eye. I don't know who's worse, Dodo, who feels nothing for anyone but himself, or you who feels nothing for no one, not even for yourself. With that said, he walked away without another word. Sandayu? Koyuki whispered. The people on the mountain turned to see a floating balloon appearing on from below the cliffs. As the balloon got higher, they could see attached to the bottom was a train compartment, and standing in the open compartment door was the snow ninja Mizore. His eyes widened as he took in the still very much alive rebels. He shook the shock off quickly and fired the cables in his gauntlet at the princess and snatched her right from the ground. Ah! Before anyone could react, she was hauled inside the floating contraption. Damn it! What do we do now? Sasuke said. Now, we come up with a plan and get her back, was the muffled reply. They all looked around. Not far from where Koyuki had been standing, the snow began to rise up to reveal Naruto. Naruto? I thought you got back on the train? Sakura said. I switched out with a clone, which has been swiftly dispersed once Mizore informed Dodo that the rebels were still alive. Naruto looked in the direction the balloon had went. I do know that they were planning on going to some kind of hidden valley west of here to retrieve the treasure once they got the key from Koyuki. Well, what if they don't have the key? Kakashi asked, holding up a crystal on a string. I switched out the real hex crystal with a fake. Would they still take her to this secret valley? I don't know. Our best bet is to split up. I'll take Lee to the valley, you take Sakura and Sasuke to the mansion, Naruto suggested. Sounds good to me, Sasuke. Sakura, prepare to move out, Kakashi ordered. Wait, we can help. We know this country better than you. We can get you there by the quickest way, Sandayu said. We can't afford to lag behind. Gather anyone ready to travel now. We have to get going, Kakashi urged. 5 minutes and we'll be ready, Sandayu promised. Lee? Naruto turned to the green-clad Shin'an. We have a long way to go. Yosh. Let us finally put an end to the most youthful Dodo. Naruto flinched back at the volume. Lee, we're on a mountain. Bring the volume down before you cause an avalanche. Sorry. I'll meet you at the valley, Kakashi. Let's go, Lee, Naruto said and took off back down the train tracks that lead to the ice cave with Lee on his heels. It was a long, difficult run over the snowy and twisting terrain to the other end of the island where the valley was. By the time they got to their destination, it was falling to darkness. Naruto and Lee finally arrived at the edge of the valley. It is too late. Dodo has beaten us here, Lee said. Naruto watched as Dodo dumped Koyuki on the ground and approached some kind of shrine. He watched as he inserted the crystal into the center. Light spread out from the center and then all throughout the valley. Naruto and Lee waited on the cliffside for something to happen. Even Dodo was looking around in confusion. Lee, do you feel that? Naruto asked, looking around him. What do you feel? Lee asked, confused. It's getting warmer, look over there. He pointed in the direction of a tall pillar of snow. It's melting. A heat generator? That's the treasure of the Kazahana clan? This is nothing. That bastard brother of mine was worthless. Dodo raged. Alright Lee, I'll distract him while you get the princess out of there. Naruto summoned a clone and took off down the cliff. Hey, Dodo, Naruto yelled to get the dictator's attention. I would like to officially tender my resignation. You traitorous scum, I had a feeling I should have killed you when you showed up, Dodo sneered. Let's skip the name calling and try to kill each other in a manly fashion. Wind style, divine down current jutsu. Naruto called. A powerful vortex of wind was released from his hands. His clone quickly followed fire style, dragon flame bomb. The two powerful jutsu coalesced into a writhing white-hot dragon. Celestial dragon bomb. Even Dodo wasn't confident enough in his chakra armor to stand before such a devastating attack. He activated his wings and launched himself in the air. He watched from the air with gritted teeth as the white dragon burned a trench in the snow-covered ground. Ice style, black dragon blizzard. Dodo launched the devastating attack from above. Naruto and his clone dodged the jutsu and had to jump to more solid ground as the dragon decimated the area they were in. He cupped his hands for his clone to use as leverage and launched him in the air at the winged Dodo. The clone missed Dodo but clipped one of the wings, knocking Dodo out of the sky. Dodo was quick to recover and stand on his feet. Naruto was waiting for him with a swirling orb of blue chakra in his right hand. Dodo scoffed at the technique. Do you honestly think that pitiful jutsu will pierce my armor? I'm going to enjoy crushing you into oblivion. You don't stand a chance in hell, Dodo, you never did. Dodo began his hand seals, but before he could finish, two hands shot out from the ground beneath him and clamped down on his ankles with an iron grip. Rasengan. Before he knew it, the blue orb was grinding away against the chakra shield generated by his armor. You're finished, Dodo. Naruto snarled as he pressed harder into the shield and was rewarded with a crack in Dodo's armor. Dodo, hearing the crack and seeing pieces of his armor falling away, took a wild swing and connected with the side of Naruto, who exploded in a cloud of smoke. Odama Rasengan. Dodo looked up at the shout. His eyes widened in horror as he saw the same blue orb, only twice as big, was descending on him from above. Dodo's mouth was open in a silent scream that would never be heard as his organs were quickly ground into liquid. Princess Koyuki. Princess. Naruto turned around to see Sandayu and the rest of Team 7 converge on Koyuki and Lee. Sandayu. Koyuki screamed as she broke away and ran into her manger's arms with tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry for the way I've been. Sandayu wrapped his arms around his charge and held her as she cried and pleaded for his forgiveness over and over. All is forgiven, Princess Koyuki, your father would be so proud of you. Koyuki, the easy part is over, the hard part hasn't started yet, and I hope you're ready for it. Koyuki turned still within the shell of Sandayu's arms to look at the person that had spoken to her. It was the shinobi who disposed of her uncle. Thank you for all you've done, the land of snow is in your debt. No, it isn't, I was just doing my duty. It was nice to see you again, Koyuki. Koyuki's brow crinkled in confusion. Have we met before? In response, Naruto reached up and removed his green contact lens. I had blonde hair at the time and was going by the name Arashi. Naruto said, I, smiling, and because he was smiling with his eyes closed, he missed the look of recognition and the flash of fury, but he felt the slap that turned him in the other direction. I don't think I deserved that. Team 7 stayed an extra 2 weeks to provide protection for Koyuki until she could set up her defenses. In all that time, Koyuki refused to even acknowledge Naruto's presence. Naruto was completely confused, but he swore to himself he would find out eventually. As the return team was making their way through the village and towards the Hokage tower, they heard a rhythmic chant getting steadily closer from behind them. They all turned to see what it was and then moved aside as a procession of academy students jogged by. Naruto smiled when he saw Konohamaru in the head of the run, and he was also calling out a cadence in his cracking, almost teenage voice. Up in the morning with the rising sun. Up in the morning with the rising sun. Gonna run all day till the running's done. Gonna run all day till the running's done. If the cage asks me to go and fight. If the cage asks me to go and fight. Gonna fight all day till I drop and rot. Gonna fight all day till I drop and rot. If I'm told to run and hide. If I'm told to run and hide. Gonna say hell no. Then kick her in the eye. Gonna say hell no. Then kick her in the eye. Naruto shook his head at the last verse and didn't concern himself with hiding his laughter. I did not teach him that and will not take the blame, he said to himself. It's kind of catchy, Kakashi said. Such youth should be celebrated with 500 laps around the village, Lee said before he shot off, leaving a trail of dust behind him. Where does he get all his energy? Sakura asked. No one in particular. I was going to dismiss you when we got to the tower, but since Lee is already gone, there's no reason to hold you two back, Naruto, and I can handle the debriefing. Take the next couple of days off to rest up and adjust. I'll send for you when I want to meet. Kakashi said to his two students. Thanks, sensei, I've been dying to get back in my own bed. Goodbye, Sasuke, Naruto-kun, Sakura said before turning and heading off home. Bye, Sakura-chan. Sasuke barely acknowledged Sakura's farewell with a nod and didn't even give that much to Kakashi and Naruto. But to be fair, Kakashi already had his nose in his book and Naruto walked away having absolutely no intention of speaking to the Uchiha. It was a silent walk the rest of the way, to the tower. As they neared the Hokage's office, Kakashi quickly put his book away, knowing full well what awaited him if he was caught reading it in the presence of Tsunade. Naruto was about to knock on the door when he heard loud but muffled voices coming from inside. He was debating whether to interrupt when the decision was taken out of his hands. Naruto's collapsible bow staff was in his hand in an instant and his foot was already connecting with the door, knocking it off its hinges. He sprang into the room with Kakashi right behind and immediately pulled up short. He came in expecting Tsunade to be under attack, but what he saw was Hiruzen Sarutobi on his knees in the middle of the room, apparently begging Tsunade not to drop her desk on his head. Off to the side of the confrontation was, to his surprise, Temari of the desert, looking on in glee at the imminent danger Sarutobi was in, and next to her was her Jonin sensei, Baki, looking on in sympathy. What the hell is going on in here? Tsunade looked up in surprise, apparently too engrossed with inflicting bodily harm on her former sensei to notice her door being kicked in. "Oh Naruto, perfect, you can help me kill him," she said, nodding at the still cowering former Hokage. "Why would I be helping you to kill him?" "Because apparently one of his last acts as Hokage was to arrange a marriage for you with Temari over there," now gesturing at Temari, who waved at him shyly without telling me or you about it. Naruto looked back and forth between Temari and the old man, who wouldn't meet his eyes. He even looked at Baki for confirmation and got a nod. Naruto slowly advanced on Hiruzen. "Between the two of us we can make this look like an accident." "Okay Hana, you're almost done, one more good push," Tsunade said. Hana was panting and her face was drenched in sweat, but she gave an enthusiastic nod and squeezed the hand that she was holding until she could feel the bones grinding together. She turned her head to look into the wide smiling face of her husband. "You're doing great Hana-chan," Naruto said before wiped her sweaty forehead and placed a kiss on it afterwards. "Naruto," she said in between pants, "after this kid is born, if you ever touch me again, I'm going to neuter you. You did this to me, you blonde walking penis." And she was about to lunge at him before an almighty pain brought her back to more important business. "Hana, the last time, and push," Tsunade ordered. "Ah. Kami." Hana screamed as she expelled another human being from her body. "Wah. Wah. Wah. It's a boy," Tsunade announced. "Wow, listen to the lungs on that kid," Naruto said proudly. He watched with tears in his eyes as his son was clean, then swathed in a blue blanket. Hana was exhausted but sat up regardless as her child was brought to her. She cradled him in her arms and folded the blankets back to get a good look. He was beautiful, and he had that wild Inuzuka hair like her mother and brother, but had those wonderful cerulean blue eyes that no one other than a Namikaze would have. Her tears mixed with the sweat of her face as she kissed his forehead and whispered, "Welcome to the world." "I know that look." Hana was jettisoned from her dream by that simple statement. She quickly looked around her, wondering what she was doing in the Konoha hot springs. Then she remembered with a blush why she was here. She had woken up that morning feeling phantom pains and rarely used muscles after her exhausting evening with Naruto. Hana, she shook herself and focused on who had interrupted her very pleasant dream. To her surprise, it was the same person she had intended on tracking down later that day. "Good morning Anko, what did you say?" Anko dropped her towel and slid into the steaming water opposite Hana. "When I came in, you had what I can only describe as euphoric look about you." "I know that look, I've seen it in the mirror enough lately to recognize it." "And so, were you getting married, pregnant or giving birth?" Hana smiled widely, not at all ashamed of her dream, the last one. "I've been thinking about him on and off since we first met. Then when we started dating I would dream about my wedding day. Or I would be standing next to someone in this huge field of grass watching a bunch of rugrats chase each other around. The other person was always a blur." Nothing stood out about him. Hana looked Anko completely in her eye in order to convey her seriousness. "I know that other person is Naruto now, I feel it with everything I am. I don't want to lose him and I won't ask him to choose, so I'm asking you, will this work? The three of us, I mean?" Anko smiled, not smirked but smiled. "We're going to do fine Hana-chan. Naruto wouldn't have it any other way. The reason I came here looking for you is to get to know you better." Naruto said it, and I agree, we can't be a family if we're strangers. Hana nodded. "How did you know I would be here?" Anko leered at Hana and gave her a perverted giggle. "I know our Naruto-kun." Hana flushed a scarlet red, but she still smiled when she heard Anko say our Anko. "Can I ask you a question?" "Sure, ask me almost anything, I'm not the shy type," said the smirking snake mistress. "How do you feel about the situation we're in?" Sharing Naruto, I mean, Hana explained. Anko shrugged. I'm fine with it. I've known the truth about Naruto since the first day he came back, although I didn't expect to be with him at this point. I figured we would have fun, and then when his identity was known we'd call it quits, and that would be that. Anko sighed heavily. I should have known better though. He got past the walls I set up. He knew he won my heart before I did. I knew what I was in for once his heritage was out in the open. But it didn't matter. He's worth it. He has a heart big enough to share with all of the Land of Fire, so it was an easy decision really, be on the outside looking in or share him and claim a place in his heart forever. Is it that simple? Anko whipped her head around at the question, while Hana's eyes flew to the shadowed doorway leading from the locker rooms. Anko and Hana were surprised to see Tsunade's assistant Shizune step out of the doorway with a towel wrapped around her body and one around her head. Is it that simple a decision, share him or don't have him at all? She asked again, walking towards the other two kunoichi. Anko eyed her curiously but still answered, yeah, it is that simple when you're dealing with Naruto. Either you think he's worth sharing or you don't. I think he's worth sharing. So do I, Hana said, staring at Shizune, whom she had met a couple of times since she's come back to the village with the 5th Hokage. Shizune sat down on the edge of the hot spring and dipped her feet in but didn't submerge her body. She stared at the water in deep thought. She had come to the hot spring that morning wanting to work out the muscle kinks from a 12-hour shift at the hospital. She was rounding the corner when she heard Hana ask her question about sharing Naruto. It can't be that simple, can it? Is he worth sharing? Shizune thought to herself, how the hell would I know? She replied back to herself, we barely know Naruto. You've been avoiding him ever since you found out about the CRA. Do you want to be Tsunade, 50 years old and only just finding the man you should have been with? Don't forget you won't have the luxury of Uzumaki genes to keep you from sagging at 50 years of age. Shizune blinked. That was pretty harsh, Inami. Where did that come from? You need a kick in the pants, girly. Tsunade herself has been hinting and pushing you in his direction. She knows the score. She knows what it's like to be where you are. She ran from her feelings for Jiraiya ever since she was a young girl. She sees you about to do the same thing. You say you don't really know Naruto. Stop hiding from him and get to know him. Make a decision about the man behind the mask. Shizune snapped out of her inner monologue when and blinked rapidly as Anko snapped her fingers in her face. There we go, welcome back. We lost you for a bit, Anko said, looking at the slightly dazed medic Nin. Sorry, I was just thinking, Shizune said slowly. Is it Naruto or someone else? Hana asked, having come over to sit next to Anko. It's Naruto, the dark-haired medic confessed. Anko and Hana just nodded their heads as if they expected that answer. Did something happen between you two? Because he hasn't said anything about you, and no offense, if he was seriously courting you and not just flirting he would have told us, Anko said. We weren't dating or anything, Shizune said, waving her hand. She then explained to them about how she had first met Naruto the day before he came back to the village. She told them about how they met again when he came searching for Lady Tsunade. She explained that after Naruto told her about the CRA he said it was up to her if she wanted to pursue a relationship or not, and that since then she has been keeping her distance, trying to think. I understand. I was unsure of my feelings for Naruto at one point. We would bump into each other around the flirt talk for a bit. He would say something outrageously flirtatious and then leave. Hana smirked at the other two kunoichi. I finally had enough of his flirty one-liners and demanded he take me on a proper date. That's when I got to know him. He is charming, funny and smart. Hana looked at Shizune. I know it's strange, trying to convince you to date our boyfriend. Fiancé, Anko said, interjected. Shizune and Hana gaped at Anko, who raised a challenging eyebrow at Hana. I saw the mark on Naruto. We both know what that means. Hana smiled. As I was saying, it may seem strange trying to get you to date our fiancé, but you have to see what there is between the two of you. Shizune looked at the Inuzuka oddly. Why are you pushing this? It's instinct. I've chosen an alpha mate as a partner, now it's time to build a pack, Hana said easily. I like the sound of that. Are you going to go around collecting kunoichis now? Anko asked with a perverse smile. Hana chuckled and shook her head. No, nothing like that. Even surrounded by all this water and with the steam in the air, this whole time we've been talking about Naruto, Shizune has been releasing pheromones so much that it's almost saturating the air. Shizune was crimson now as she stared in horror at Hana. Can you really smell pheromones? I didn't mean to embarrass you, but yes I can. It's like honeysuckle and cinnamon, Hana said, described. Shizune gaped at Hana for a moment longer before she stood up. I think I'm going to go now. Shizune-san, I really didn't mean to embarrass you, Hana implored. It's okay, I'm more surprised than embarrassed. You just gave me more to think about, that's all. Would it be okay if we spoke again later? Shizune asked, staring at Hana then Anko. I don't know if you're aware of this, but Naruto will be out of the village for the next month or so on a mission. While he's gone, Hana and I are supposed to be looking for a new home for all of us to move into. Anko's expression was as serious as she had ever been before. When Naruto gets back, we're going to start building the foundation for our family. If you decide to pursue him, you have to be ready to be a part of all of us, not just Naruto. Hana nodded, agreeing wholeheartedly with Anko. Shizune looked between the two future Mrs. Namikazes. She nodded in understanding and then left to change back into her clothes and go home. After another 10 minutes to give Shizune time to herself, Hana stood up. She walked to the edge of the hot spring where her towel was and wrapped it around herself. Are you busy today? I've actually taken the next few days off, so we could get started on the house hunt, Anko replied. Good, then you can join me for breakfast at the compound. You like steak and eggs? Hana said as Anko rose up out of the water and grabbed her own towel. Ah, the breakfast of champions, Anko replied. No one really took notice of the new friendship between the snake mistress of Konoha and the only daughter of the Inuzuka clan head until one mid-morning about a month after Naruto had left for his mission. Anko and Hana were seen leaning on each other for support. They were both bruised and bleeding, and they were both smiling. After the secret of his heritage came out, Naruto made no secret about dating Anko or Hana. What wasn't known to the populace was that Hana and Anko knew about each other, and what Naruto, Hana and Anko didn't know was that there were bets on when the two kunoichi would find out about Naruto dating them both and what would happen afterwards. It was gossiped that somehow the two kunoichi found out about one another and fought over who would keep the Namikaze heir to themselves. When later told that the two kunoichi were laughing and supporting each other to the hospital, there was a collective shiver from any man who has ever cheated on his significant other or any many that has ever been on the receiving end of righteous feminine fury. Anko and Hana heard about the rumors, and every time some random woman would shake her head in sympathetic misery or encourage them to castrate Naruto as soon as he stepped foot back inside the village, they laughed until they cried. The truth behind the hospital visit was that after the morning in the hot spring, Anko felt the fastest way to get to know someone was through fighting them, so she asked Hana for a spar that morning after breakfast. Afterwards they sparred most mornings before going about their separate duties. It just so happened that the morning in question, they were both a little twitchy from lack of Naruto Nuki and took the sparring session a little overboard. Once the two were seen hanging out on a regular basis, there were many raised glasses to the soon-to-be dead Namikaze. The gossip mill seemed to work overtime when Lady Tsunade's assistant Shizune would also be seen taking meals with the Hana and Anko. Okay folks, let's all calm down and talk about this without violence, Kakashi said as he sat on Naruto's back. Naruto ceased his squirming beneath Kakashi. He was trussed up from shoulder to ankle in ninja wire. Kakashi had taken him down from behind before he could get his hands on Gigi. Sarutobi, meanwhile, being the veteran shinobi he was and showing why he had survived as long as he has, took Tsunade's moment of inattention to haul ass past the struggling Naruto and Kakashi. You can run all you want, old man, I know where you live, Naruto shouted after the retreating third Hokage. Damn it, old man, we're not done here, Tsunade said as she set her desk back on the ground. Oof. Jiraiya, you traitor. Put me down this instant. Was heard from the hallway. Sorry sensei, but I remember you throwing me to the wolves 1 or 2 times, as I recall you told me it would build character, Jiraiya said as he appeared in the doorway. He was wrapped in ninja wire much like Naruto was. Jiraiya dumped him on the floor beside Naruto, who had renewed his struggles. Old man, you got some explaining to do, Tsunade said as she glared at him. The Konoha Council decided that a marriage between Konoha and Suna would solidify the alliance between the two villages more solidly than a simple piece of paper, Sarutobi started to explain. But why offer Naruto up? Jiraiya asked from next to Tsunade. It wasn't just Naruto. Sarutobi stood up and let the ninja wire slide down his body to pool at his feet. The stipulation of the marriage was that there could not be more than a 5-year gap in age differences, and both husband and wife had to be prominent members of their respective villages. As he explained, he moved to stand next to Tsunade on her left side. They didn't even have to be shinobi. We sent a list. Asuma was on it, same as Konohamaru, Kakashi and the young Nara heir Shikamaru. There were plenty of to choose from, they just chose Naruto. Naruto had stood during Sarutobi's explanation and moved to sit in one of the available chairs in front of Tsunade's desk. Naruto was leaning forward in his chair, rubbing his temples, trying to stave off the incoming headache. It can't be official though, not even the Hokage can speak for a clan head in terms of marriage, even a political one. Except in this case, Naruto, you were not officially recognized as a clan head until after the treaty and betrothal were finalized, Tsunade interjected. So if I'm reading between the lines correctly, Without the marriage, the peace treaty doesn't stand a leaf and the sand villages go to war, which I'm guessing we both want to avoid. Naruto said more to himself than actually addressing anyone else in the room. Temari-san, how do you feel about all this? Temari, surprised she was even addressed, said what was on the tip of her tongue. I think it fucking sucks, she said, then her eyes widened and she covered her mouth. Naruto smiled for the first time since he came into the Hokage's office. Tell me how you really feel about it, Temari-san. Temari took a moment to get her mouth and mind on the same page. Being the daughter of the Kazekage, I was made aware from an early age that it was a strong possibility I would not have the luxury of marrying for love or someone of my choosing. She shrugged her shoulders. I've come to accept that, but I also love my village. Marry a stranger to avoid a war between us is something I can live with. Kami, how am I going to explain this to Hana and Anko? Naruto thought, and then he sprang out of his chair. Oh shit. What? What is it? Tsunade asked urgently. Hana and Anko, how the hell am I going to explain this? Naruto asked as he paced back and forth between Tsunade's desk and his chair. Naruto, maybe you should explain who Hana and Anko are to Temari, before you explain who Temari is to them, Kakashi suggested. Naruto stopped pacing at the suggestion. Right, he turned to face Temari. Temari-san, Hana Inuzuka and Anko Mitarashi are my two fiancés, Naruto said straight away. Temari's only response was to raise one delicate eyebrow. He has two women already, and all you do is raise an eyebrow? Jiraiya said, astonished at her seemingly easy acceptance. He turned to his godson. You lucky blonde bastard, ugh. That was all he got out since Tsunade found it necessary to elbow him in his unprotected stomach and dropped him to his knees. I told you, I was aware that I was not going to be married to a man of my choosing. I could have easily been given to some daimyo as a concubine or mistress, Temari said simply and ignoring the Sannin gasping for air on the floor. No one will be put above the others in my household, you will have an equal say along with my other wives, Naruto said firmly. Before Temari could respond to that, her sensei Baki spoke up for the first time. Why is it that you have two fiancés, Namikaze-san? As the last member of a prominent clan, Naruto is subject to the Clan Restoration Act. It's a way to ensure that the clan does not become extinct, Jiraiya explained, having regained his breath and was now out of reach of his better half. What were the conditions on the marriage? Naruto asked as he sat back down. You have to marry within a year of both parties being notified. Prior to the marriage you must each spend 3 months in the other's village, Tsunade explained to Naruto. No one is demanding that children come anytime soon, but when you do have them, they will automatically have dual citizenship. Why wasn't I made aware of this sooner? Naruto, stunned, asked Tsunade. Before she could answer, Naruto shifted his eyes to Sarutobi as he cleared his throat pointedly. I may have forgotten to mention it to you, Hiruzen said sheepishly while Naruto face vaulted out of the chair he was sitting in. You forgot? Naruto shouted. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, but a lot of things happened in a very short time, some things just slipped by me, that's all, Hiruzen explained desperately. Naruto shook his head in amazement. He forgot? His mind echoed. Temari-san, why are you here now? Naruto said to change the subject. I have to spend 3 months in the Leaf Village prior to our marriage. I didn't see any reason to delay, Temari stated. Naruto once again rubbed his temples, trying to stop his head from becoming a full-blown brain meltdown. Naruto, take this, Tsunade said, handing over a sheet of paper to him. He realized it was a map. He looked at Tsunade with a slight smile. Does this mean they found a house? Yes, it does. It turns out you already own a home in the Shinobi district, Tsunade said. I wasn't aware of any home my parents bought. The purchase wasn't actually finalized until after your parents were dead. According to the paperwork we found, it was purchased from a retired shinobi couple who left Konoha to move to the capital 2 weeks earlier, Tsunade explained. Sarutobi jumped in to take over the explanation from there. After the Kyuubi's attack, the village was in lockdown for almost a month. When Tsume told me that Hana and Anko were looking for a home for the three of you to move into, I remembered that after the lockdown was lifted, I received the deed to the home because, at the time, it saddened me that you wouldn't get the chance to live there as a family like Minato wanted. So I set the deed aside and then it was only a matter of finding it again. Once I did, I turned it over to Tsunade. And I gave it to the girls. I know for a fact that at least Anko is living there, because it took a while for my Anbu to find her last week when I sent for her, Tsunade finished. Naruto stood up. Is it okay if we have a mission debrief tomorrow? I would really like to check out my new home and also absorb my new situation. Sure, tomorrow morning 8 o'clock, both of on time, she said as she sent Kakashi a glare. Yes ma'am, Lady Hokage, Kakashi said before dismissing himself. Temari-san, like you said, there is no reason to delay. Would you like to join me? This is going to be your home as well, Naruto offered. Temari hesitated but only briefly. Okay, that sounds fine. As the two of them made their way to the door, another Naruto faded into existence and took off down the hall ahead of them. Hey Naruto, what was the clone for? Jiraiya asked. Naruto turned and addressed Sarutobi instead of Jiraiya. You remember earlier when I said I know where you live? Naruto asked him. Hiruzen gave a cautious nod. Well, I also know where you hide your book collection, Naruto said with an evil grin as Sarutobi paled and fell to his knees. I like the way you think, Tsunade said. She turned to Jiraiya and gestured him to come closer so that she could whisper in his ear, if you replace even one of his Super Hentai Collection edition, you're on the couch for the next 6 months. Jiraiya immediately abandoned any plans to help his sensei after Tsunade's threat. Why do I feel so cold? Sarutobi asked desperately as he now lay in a fetal position on the floor. Uzumakis are so damn vicious, Jiraiya thought as he looked at his broken teacher and could only shake his head in sympathy. That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.